So in the series of learning programming in C, we are discussing pointers in C. In the previous video, I have discussed void pointer in C. In this video, I will talk about null pointer in C, because there are some special pointer in C also, like void, null, while pointer and dangling pointer. These concepts are also really very helpful, and generally in interview also they ask these type of questions, right? So we'll see everything about null pointer in this video, like what is null pointer, why we use it, that is very important, the application of null pointer. All the important points about null pointer we will see with the help of a proper program. We'll discuss here first of all, then I'll show you practically on my laptop, and we will also see how this pointer is different from void pointer, as well as if you don't initialize any pointer, right? How this pointer is different from that pointer, that uninitialized pointer, right? Everything about null pointer we will discuss in this video. So now let's see what is null pointer. See, I hope you know how to initialize, how to declare a pointer. Suppose I am writing int star ptr. This is what? A pointer to integer. You can say an integer pointer, right? Here we are not initializing this pointer. Means here is some ptr in memory, right? It's a special variable. It will contain address of any other variable, but we are not assigning any address till now, right? So maybe it is pointing to some address in memory which is garbage, because here we are having some garbage value. We are not initializing it, so it is pointing to any memory location, right? We don't know the address of that memory location. So that at that memory location, maybe this memory location is using by operating system itself for some important task, or maybe some other process is using this memory location, right? Or maybe this memory location is not valid at all. Anything can be possible. So this is what uninitialized pointer. We are not initializing this pointer, it is containing any garbage value. We don't know to which memory location it is pointing. That memory location may be valid, may not be valid. So when you use this pointer, when you dereference now this pointer like printf %d, and I want to dereference it asterisk ptr, by mistake, I haven't initialized it, but by mistake in program I want to find out the value that is pointed by this pointer. I want to dereference, means value at this address, but address in this pointer is any garbage value, because we haven't initialized this yet. So what you will get here? We cannot say. It will show some undefined behavior. Maybe program will crash, or maybe it will give some garbage value. We don't know. It depends, right? So it will show some undefined behavior. So to remove this thing, generally if you don't initialize the pointer, that is known as wild pointer. So these are risky to use, right? So better to initialize it with null. This null, all caps letters, NULL, this is itself a pointer in C, and the value is 0. The corresponding value of this null is 0. This 0 is, so in C you can write down null or 0. But this 0 we are using in context of pointers, because this is pointer. It is different from that integer 0. Right? So better to use here null rather than 0, NULL. Ultimately it would be 0. So if you print here now, if you print here like ptr, in ptr now we have what? Null, that is 0, right? It is already defined, right? In those header file like stdi.h, in stddef.h, in stdlib.h, multiple header files it has been defined, right? And its value is, corresponding value of null is 0. So in pointer now we have 0, right? So it is pointing to what? Because memory location is 0. So you can say it is a special value that is pointing to, that does not point to any valid object, or you can say it is pointing to 0th memory location which is reserved. You cannot dereference that memory location. This thing is very important. You cannot dereference it, right? Or you can say it is pointing to, it doesn't point to any valid object, any valid address. If you write here, if you write this asterisk p is equal to null, right? So if you print here PTR, it will give 0. And if you try to dereference it, your program will crash. This thing is very important. You cannot dereference a null pointer. So see, this null NULL, this is itself a pointer in C, right? The value of this is corresponding value of this is what? 0. This is null pointer in C. And we can also use this pointer to initialize another pointer variable, because PTR is a pointer variable. I am declaring a pointer of type int, right? And I am initializing this with this pointer, null pointer. So now PTR also becomes a null pointer, right? So in simple terms, you can say null pointer does not refer to any valid address, or it does not refer to any valid object. So if this is the case, then what is the purpose of using null pointer? There are some special purpose, because that is why we use null pointer in our programming language. And what are those purpose? See, if by chance I am not initializing the pointer right now, right, because I want this pointer should point to a memory location which I would allocate dynamically using malloc and calloc function, right? Suppose I am using this pointer is equal to, I am using malloc function, and I am using here 5 into size of int. Dynamically at runtime, I want to allocate memory. These malloc and calloc, these functions are built-in functions which are used to allocate memory dynamically. This thing we have discussed in data structure videos, that you can watch that videos, or we will see this thing later, right? If you are not getting this syntax, leave it. The meaning of this is, simple meaning of this is what? Here I am allocating some memory, right? And that memory, this pointer should contain the memory address, that memory address, right? So suppose at runtime I am allocating this memory, and address of this is 1000. So it means this 1000 should store here. So now this PTR is pointing to this memory address. Now this is valid memory address, right? But in starting I am not initializing this pointer. At runtime I want to initialize. But by chance, because of some problems, it is not possible to allocate memory. Using malloc, it is not possible to allocate memory during this time. So ultimately in pointer, in PTR, null would be assigned. Null means 0 would be assigned, right? So now at this point, we think that we have written this syntax and memory has been allocated to this PTR, and now this pointer is pointing to any valid memory location. And further in the program, I am using something like I am suppose dereferencing this pointer asterisk PTR, right? Whatever here I want to access this, right? But because of some problems, this malloc has not been executed successfully and the memory has not been allocated to this PTR. The memory has not been allocated. So now in PTR by default we have null. And if you now dereference this pointer, it will show what? Your program will crash, because we cannot dereference a null pointer, right? So better to, before dereferencing this, better to check if PTR equal to null. If PTR is null, you have to be very careful. You cannot dereference that pointer, or you cannot do anything, because this pointer is pointing to invalid memory object, invalid object, right? So we cannot do anything. Just you can print what? Memory has not been allocated. Else whatever you want to do, you can do if memory has been allocated successfully, right? So now at starting, please don't leave the pointer uninitialized. Better to initialize it with null. So ultimately at starting we have null in this pointer, and now if memory has been allocated successfully, it's okay. Maybe the memory address is 1000, so here in PTR now we have 1000 and it is pointing to this memory address, right? So better to check now before doing something with this pointer. Better to check if pointer is still null, memory has not been allocated. If not null, then you can do something with this pointer, right? So it is what you can say, it is used in error handling in C. Because by mistake, if pointer is not null, like you haven't initialized this pointer and maybe by mistake you want to dereference that pointer in the program, so your program will crash, right? So to get rid of this situation, to handle this error, we use null pointer. We initialize it with null. This is the main thing. This is the main purpose of using null pointer. Many times in data structure we use null pointers. You can watch out my data structure playlist. There I have used this null, this keyword null, this null pointer many times. Generally we use when we use dynamic memory allocation. In that case we use null pointers. That is the main purpose of using null pointer, right? And also one more thing, like in function, if you don't want to pass any valid address, suppose I am using any function and here at some times I don't want to pass any valid address, so you can pass null pointer here, right? So that we will discuss when we will discuss this function concept. At that time we will discuss this thing, right? So in brief, what we can say about null pointer is what? Null pointer does not refer to any valid object. Secondly, better to initialize a pointer with null rather than leaving it uninitialized, right? To get rid of the situation of that undefined behavior, right? So better to initialize it with null. And before doing something with this pointer, better to check if pointer is null. Don't do anything, because the third point is very important. Third point is very important. You cannot dereference a null pointer because it is not pointing to any valid object. So if you will dereference it, program will crash, right? I'll show you practical also of this null pointer. And this is different from void pointer as well as uninitialized pointer. This also you need to take care of, because null is what? A value, 0, right? Although in the pointer context, and void is what? A type. So both pointers are different. And one more thing, if you declare something like this, int pointer, this pointer 1 is equal to null and ptr2 is equal to null, definitely these pointers would be same, right? If you compare, these pointer would be same. If you compare, like if ptr1 equal to ptr2, and here you will print both pointer p1 and pointer ptr1 and ptr2 are same, this would definitely be executed, this, because this would always be same, because in both we are storing null means 0. So both pointer are pointing to that 0th memory location, or you can say any that is reserved, right? We cannot dereference it, fine. So both would be same. But if you write something like this, int ptr1, and if you don't initialize this and this, so maybe you think you are not initializing these pointers, so these pointers are also same. No, ptr1 now will contain any garbage value, ptr2 will also contain some garbage value, but it is not guaranteed that this garbage value and this garbage value are same. But if you initialize with null, that is for sure both will contain 0 and 0, null and null, right? So I hope you got this point, this difference about the null pointer and uninitialized pointer. And if you declare something like this, int ptr1 is equal to null, so in ptr1 we have null, that is 0, right? So it is guaranteed that this value is not equal to any other pointer which is pointing to any valid object, right? Because this is containing 0, that is null, right? If you take any other pointer, this ptr2, this is uninitialized, maybe this will contain sometimes 0, we cannot say, it depends, or maybe it will contain some other garbage value. But this is what, obviously this is what? Invalid pointer, uninitialized pointer, this is what? Invalid pointer, right? And if here I am storing address of like a, I am taking a variable int a is equal to 5, now this is what? Obviously a valid pointer, because it is containing address of a is a variable somewhere in memory, right? So this null pointer, it is guaranteed that it is not equal to any other pointer which is pointing to any valid object, right? So now let me show you this thing practically. Let me create a file. We use header files, then main function, and here I am declaring a pointer. suppose I am taking PTR1, right, and see, if I take a variable int a is equal to suppose 3 and PTR1 is equal to address of a, simply what you can do, percentage %d, and you can print, you can do what, asterisk PTR1. So, it should print value of a, that is 3. See, it is printing 3, right. Now, if I write here only asterisk PTR, I am not going to initialize it, and now dereference it, or suppose I am initializing this with null, INULL, and one more pointer I am taking PTR2, and that is uninitialized pointer. So, whatever in PTR1 I am going to print that thing, and one more whatever value in PTR2, that also we are going to print. So, in PTR1 obviously we will have, see, we are not using dereferencing operator, we are printing the value. So, in PTR1 we have 0 and PTR2 we have any garbage value, because it is wild pointer, uninitialized pointer. Maybe now I have told you, see, in first obviously we will have 0, in PTR2 also it is printing 0. It may be a case that it will have 0 or it will have any garbage value, we cannot say, but null pointer will always have 0, right. So, PTR1 will always have 0, right. Now, suppose here I am storing what, suppose I want to dereference this null pointer, see, this is null pointer, it is not pointing to any valid object and still I want to dereference it. So, obviously program is going to crash. So, see, okay. So, now see null pointer.exe has stopped working, right, because we cannot dereference a null pointer, this you need to take care. So, you have to check before dereferencing something like this. If PTR equal to what, null, then what you will print here, you can simply write this is null pointer, right, means you cannot dereference it. In else part what you can say, now you can dereference it, right. So, now if you will run this, what output you will get, okay, it is PTR, it is not PTR, it is PTR1, right. So, now let me run this and see, this is null pointer, because obviously this is null pointer, right. So, better to use this one, this we use for error handling in C, right. And if you take another pointer, PTR2 is equal to null. Say here I am taking 2 pointer, pointer 2 is also null, and here I am checking if PTR1 equal to PTR2. So, this you have to print like both are null pointer, otherwise you can do anything what you want, right. So, obviously both are null, so I have told you it is guaranteed that both would always be null. So, both are null pointer, but if you leave it uninitialized like PTR1 also and this is PTR2, I am not going to initialize it, and now I am going to check, right, both are uninitialized. Otherwise we can do something, in else part we can do something, right. So, now let me run this, I do not know what output we will get. See, it has stopped working. Why so? Because PTR1 is having any garbage value, PTR2 is also having any garbage value, we are not initializing these pointers. So, it is not a guarantee that garbage value would be same as the garbage value in PTR2, right. So, if both are same, then only it will print both are uninitialized. If both are not same, just in this case means in else part I am going to print, I am going to dereference ptr1 and ptr1 is what we haven't initialized it and I want to print the value, whatever the value, whatever the address in ptr1, at that address what is the value, but the address is any garbage value. So maybe it will print anything, or see it will show some undefined behavior. So here in this case it has stopped working, program has been crashed, right. So this can also be a case. So uninitialized pointer is different from null pointer. I hope now you got the difference. And here also you can write 0, that is also fine. ptr1 is equal to 0 and ptr2 also if I am saying 0, and if both are same then it should print both are null or 0. So 0 0 is also what is considered as null in C. So here what it will print? See, both are 0, right. You can also write 0, but better to write down null, not 0, right. So I hope you got what is null pointer. If you have any doubt you can ask me in comment box. So in the next video we will see dangling pointer. So now I will see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye, take care.